That's exactly right, Olivia. Meeting just wrapped up, and this is something we've been talking about as a possibility for about the last week, but now the first official action taken. From Montgomery, police are investigating 3 separate crashes that left 3 people dead over the long holiday weekend. It's a big story on CBS 8. Even though the governor didn't mention that pay raise in his State of the State address last night, it's still one of the most important parts of his budget that was presented this morning. We've got a lot of Auburn fans streaming into the stadium right now, having a lot of fun. Sooners actually just took the field, but a lot of these Auburn fans think that they can beat them and have a nice cherry on top of this season. But the board really just wanted to hear and talk through some of these charges with Gwendolyn Boyd. We finally got to some of those. There's some issues with business contracts, such as the Steve Harvey Company of Harkale and the Turkey Day Classic. Hey, Jeff, I know you guys are getting a little bit of rain there in Montgomery. We're getting plenty of rain here in New Orleans, but that has not stopped these Auburn fans from coming out here today. Being with us, Steve?
Yes, sir, Josh. Good to see you.
First question for you today. We're talking a lot about Jeff Sessions' Senate seat and who the governor might pick. I know he's been interviewing a lot of people. Who do you think stands to gain the most, and who do you think is a realistic pick? Or you say Grant waited here outside of the club for the 3 girls, and then he followed them in his car. That's when they say he opened fire and ran them off the road. The 2 have 13 grandchildren, 15 great-grandchildren, and 2 very special great-great-grandchildren. Their daughter says she never really saw her parents mad. She says she could feel the love. Something we can all learn.
Yeah, 80 years.
I can't imagine being with anybody that long.
Yeah, me either. Just living that.
Now, we told you a little bit earlier about Jeff Sessions being sworn in as the next Attorney General of the U.S., and now Alabama Attorney General Luther Strange has been tapped to fill his vacant Senate seat.
Yeah, Governor Bentley making that announcement today. Reporter Josh Ninke live outside the State House with more on the big announcement. Hey, Josh.
Hey, Daryl. Yeah, that announcement came very first thing earlier this morning. And now, while Strange definitely has lots of experience, there are some pretty big questions hanging over this decision. Governor Robert Bentley spent the last several months whittling the short list of candidates down from over 100, then down to about 20. Luther Strange beat out several state officers as well as current and former lawmakers for the Senate seat. Bentley says Strange is very qualified, and people on Capitol Hill already know him, including Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell.
So I went by his office, and the first person that he actually mentioned was Luther Strange. He named several people, but the first one that he mentioned was Luther Strange. So Luther is not a stranger in Washington.
After the appointment, Strange and the governor flew immediately to D.C. so he could be sworn in right away. Now, Senator Luther Strange served as Attorney General for Alabama since 2011, and he says it's bittersweet leaving the post.
Being the Attorney General of Alabama has been the highest honor and the greatest pleasure of my legal career. Governor, as you know, our citizens should know, we have some of the finest, very finest people in the Office of Attorney General.
But there are some questions about the appointment. The State House Impeachment Committee, looking into the governor, put its investigation on hold at the request of Luther Strange last November. Lawmakers say his office was subpoenaing the exact same witnesses in a related investigation. But Strange says that's not quite right.
We have never said, and I want to make this clear because I think there's been some misconception here, we have never said in our office that we are investigating the governor. And I think it's somewhat actually unfair to him and unfair to the process that that's been reported out there.
Representative Alan Farley, who sits on that impeachment committee, he says this is pretty suspicious. Fat Albert is a big C-130, the same kind of plane you see fly out of Maxwell Air Force Base. Its main job is to transport the entire crew and all the equipment everywhere the Blue Angels go, but it also flies in the show.
There's not much has changed. We added some new seats to make them more comfortable. We added a little bit more paint, and then we lightened the controls a little bit, so there's a little more feel in them. But other than that, it's still a fleet C-130. This thing could be taken anywhere in the world and utilized for its primary mission.
Before they would let us on the plane, we had to go through several safety briefings. We were joined by some members of the military who earned a seat on the ride. As you might imagine, we were all very excited. Immediately on takeoff, you feel up to 3 times the Earth's gravity as the plane climbs straight up into the sky. Everyone is strapped down tight, including the flight crew. But they do get to have a little bit of fun, like opening the back of the plane while we were flying. But the best part is when the pilot puts us in a zero-gravity environment. Everything just floats, including some of the people. Fat Albert, affectionately known as Bert, puts in some crazy turns and you feel each and every one of them. Our pilot, Major Dusty Cook, says it's a crowd favorite.
So everybody loves Bert just because it's a big airplane, it's not too loud, and the attention span of really the kids that when we go on, it's only performing for about 8.5 minutes. That's perfect for like the kids, the children.
All in all, this was an amazing experience, one that I will not soon forget. In Pensacola, I'm Josh Ninke, Alabama News Network. Good evening, I'm Josh Ninke, and this is Local News First on CBS 8 and ABC Montgomery. Severe storms and some possible tornadoes touched the ground throughout our area this morning. Alabama Power has restored more than 2,000 outages in central Alabama since the morning storms, but nearly 700 people are still without power in our area. We'll have coverage of that damage in just a moment. But first, let's check in with meteorologist Ben Lang to see if the storms are over for the evening. Hey, Ben. Thank you very much, Ben. Lots of important stuff going on tonight.
Yep.
We've got some breaking news tonight as well. Montgomery police are investigating a shooting on Smiley Circle this evening. Authorities say an adult male was seriously hurt after being shot and was taken to a local hospital. No one is in custody at this time. Well, we saw some tornado warnings and a fair amount of damage across Elmore County this morning. Reporter Danielle Wallace spoke with people in Wetumpka about the storm damage there. She joins us live with tonight's big story. Hey, Danielle. All right, thank you very much, Danielle. And at this moment, there is no confirmed tornado in Elmore County from this morning, just damaging winds. And Dallas County also got hit this morning. This is a picture from the Safford community. And from Crenshaw County, EMA officials sent us these pictures of some storm damage. The Budget Shop in Luverne was hit this morning. Trees were reported down in at least 10 different areas throughout the county as well. Some power lines were also down, as you can see here. And it's not just Alabama that got hit by these storms. At least 3 people were killed in Forest County, Mississippi, when severe weather blew across the state. Some of the worst damage was in Hattiesburg, where trees and power lines were downed. Several students were hurt at William Carey University, and several buildings were damaged. A fire station was also hit. And storms that rolled through Mississippi also hit southwest Alabama. At least one home was damaged in West Mobile County. Several trees fell around the Novaton Road area. Now, no one was hurt. The storms also hit 2 car dealerships in Mobile. About 40 cars were damaged. Here in a second, you can see where the cars were all pushed around the parking lot. Windows were even shattered in some of those vehicles. And from our Troy newsroom, Pike County saw some of the worst storms in our viewing area. There was a confirmed tornado report in the county. Officers were out directing traffic after a tree fell across George Wallace Drive in Troy. Power lines were also down in the same area. According to Pike County EMA, sirens in the Troy area were not working this morning when severe weather passed through. Now, the EMA has confirmed the sirens are back working now, but they do not suggest relying only on those for alarms. The EMA suggests having a weather radio or our mobile app with alerts to keep you posted as well. The Pike County EMA says the Troy Recreation Center will be open as a storm shelter tonight. They ask that everyone arrive starting at 9 p.m. Cots will be provided, but you need to bring any other personal items that you may need. And before the weather got really bad this morning, a single car crash claimed the lives of a Troy couple. 28-year-old Tony Cummings and his wife, 29-year-old Tanya Cummings, were killed when their Ford Fusion left the road and hit several trees and then overturned. Both victims were not wearing their seat belts, and that wreck happened just before 2 a.m. this morning on Pike County Road 7755. That's just 3 miles north of Troy. The crash is still under investigation. However, speed is believed to be a factor. And despite the nasty weather, the city of Troy came together to celebrate the opening of a brand new Publix in town. City officials gathered for a special ribbon cutting for the store. There's also a long line of eager customers waiting to shop. Nearly 200 people are employed at the Troy location. It's something the community has waited for quite some time. People living in Troy say the opening of Publix gives them hope for more retail in the city. Mayor Jason Reeves says it's rewarding to see the city's hard work paying off. The Montgomery chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity held its 21st MLK Jr. Memorial Scholarship Breakfast earlier this morning. The breakfast honors Dr. King's memory, raises money for scholarships, and recognizes outstanding citizens that have demonstrated King's legacy. The organization has awarded over 300 merit-based scholarships, helping local students attend undergraduate and graduate school. Well, still to come, tons of hoops action in the state. Daryl Puckett will have that coming up just a little bit later. But first, huge crowds took to the streets across the country for this year's Women's March. That story is coming up next. You're watching CBS 8 and ABC Montgomery.